Oni bonjour. Manzanap kinigego na be Bomgiizhik indigenous cause. Ilebe cook shabiga jwat and don jaba. Gnoje and do dam. Ojibwe nishna be nini and da. I want to welcome you to this very, very interesting talk about star people. We had one the other day, and a lot of people tuned in and thought it was cool. And people are like, can you do another one? Can you do another one? I'm like, sure, let's do another one. I'll just tell you again a little bit that I know. I don't know a lot, but I'll share a couple of more stories that I heard. And like before, these aren't my stories. These are stories from the elders, mostly from my region, that were passed down around campfires or in ceremonies and those types of things. But I feel it's important to share them because a lot of people are interested, but it's also the times that we're in, and that people believe that it's really important to connect to the sky. And I was just a young boy when I first started hearing about the moon. And they used to say that there's a crack in the moon, and a very, very special crack. That crack opens up. It opens up at will and it closes when it needs to. And that there's a family of people that live inside there. That's what I heard. And the moon itself is a grandma. And that this crack, when it opens up, out of her womb, there's a family that lives in there. And they can come out and they can go back in out of that crack. And they call that crack Doshkopkak. And they say long ago, that family came out of that crack, came out of her womb. And they seen the people, the Anishinaabe on earth, and they started to watch them, and they pitied them. They pitied us because we didn't know anything. We didn't have anything, and we're very pitiful. And so those spirits that came out of that crack, they started to open their medicine bags, and they started to sprinkle medicine all over the earth for the people. And of course, when they were done, they went back through that doorway into the moon. And when I was younger, I was always fascinated by that because, the earth is filled with this medicine. And it was just recently I was sitting down with an elder on the reserve. And, he told me, he says, I'm an old man. He says, and, a long time ago, he says, when they spread that medicine, he says, I was intended for people to get good health and happiness. He said, but right now people are destroying the earth. And the animals are mad. Things are mad. Because that beautiful medicine is being destroyed. And he said, that's why sickness is coming. And that's why sickness is here. He says, so it's important during these times, is to make our petitions and make our offerings to those star people. He says, they're going to come out again. That doorway is going to open up, and that family is going to come down and help us. And then he went on to say, he said, long time ago, he says, something like this happened before. The people weren't acting right. And the stars were watching us. And they just started to fall from the sky, and they started to hit the earth. And people got scared, really scared when that happened. But nobody died. Just people got scared. And they knew that they had to act better, and they had to treat each other with respect and kindness. But wherever those stars hit the earth, a plant grew. And this plant, it looks like a star. And you take that leaf, it's a green leaf, you take it and you put it in water. And when we were kids, we used to watch that thing grow, and it would puff up, it would absorb the water and it'd puff up. And of course, the elders would always tell us that story. And so it reminds me that the star people have always been here to help us. In the past, they've been here to help us, and they're going to help us again. Another story that I heard was that, many years ago, they put a little child out to fast. And there was a crescent moon at that time. And that moon was beautiful. And, a door opened up in that crescent moon. And a spirit came down and took that boy. And that boy went all the way up to the moon. And there was a door there. And the boy entered inside that doorway in that crescent moon. And when that boy was in there, noticed that there was these old people, these elders were all sitting there, star people. And each one of them had a sacred bundle in front of them. And of course, they talked to that boy. For years and years and years, they talked to that boy. And, all about what was in those bundles. And so that boy, came back down to earth with those bundles and said that, women give life, and we're to use these bundles to preserve life, and that the men have a responsibility, and that we're not being responsible, and that we have to use these bundles, is what the boy was told. But when he came back down, he was just a boy again. Even though he was up there for a long time, the time difference wasn't noticeable. He came back down as a boy. And that's where we got a lot of our ceremonies from. Our adoption ceremony, our naming ceremony, our sweat lodge, our dead ceremony. All of them came from there. And so that's why when you see a sweat lodge, you'll see those stones in a crescent moon. And the fire is in the crescent. That's the doorway. And then, of course, you have the lodge, which represents the earth. And inside, that's the womb. And so we're reenacting what happened through our ceremony, the sweat lodge ceremony, of how that ceremony came to be. And, I believe that during this time, we continue to do those ceremonies, and we continue to pray and give our offerings. And we'll be able to receive that good help that we need right now. And, I think that they've always came to us, no matter what happened. They always came to us when we needed them. Years ago, there was this young lady. She was really sick, and she had a mysterious illness, and she turned gray like my shirt, and she was gonna die. And her dad and her mom just cried for her. They tried to get medicine for her, everything, nothing was working. And so the mom begged the dad and said, go into the forest and start asking everything to try to help her. And so the dad went into the forest and, started to ask the rocks, can you help my daughter? Start to ask the trees, can you help my daughter? Start to ask everything in nature. Even the air, can you help my daughter? The clouds. Finally, that man looked up at the sky and said, can you help my daughter? Can somebody help my daughter? And he just sat there. He sat there for many days waiting for an answer. No food, no water. All of a sudden, this little animal came. This animal, they call this animal Ujjig, the Fissure. It's like a wolverine, but it's a little smaller. This little animal came to him during his vision quest, seeking for medicine, and said, "You know, I heard your petition, I heard your prayer, and I've decided to come and help you. My grandfather lives up in the sky. My grandfather knows lots about medicines and can help you. But let me go speak to my grandfather." And so that little Fissure, that little animal, it started to climb this high mountain. And it jumped through Bomgiizhik, the hole in the sky. And it started to bounce from star to star. And it made it to its grandfather. And it started talking to its grandfather, saying that there's a sick girl down there, and that sick girl needs help. And the dad and the mom really want help. And I told them that I would ask you to help them. Right away, the grandfather said, "Of course, I would like to help. Are there any offerings? Because the medicine that they seek is in the offerings they give." And that Fissure said, "Yes, that man has offered himself. He's fasting, he's suffering." And the grandfather said, "Okay, I'll help." And gave his grandson instructions to tell that man. And so that Fissure, it climbed through Bomgiizhik, through the hole in the sky, down to earth. And it seen that man and told him, "I spoke to my grandfather, very, very powerful star being, and that he's agreed to come and help you. And what he wants you to do is he wants you to get 7 poles. Each pole you have to feast with tobacco. So dig a hole, put 7 poles in a circle right where you are. Put birch bark around those circles and wait." So that's what the dad did. The dad sat there and, made that lodge, a round lodge with 7 poles, with birch bark all around, and waited. A couple of days went by, nothing. And the dad started to question if what he saw and what he heard was true, because he was so hungry and so thirsty. It was on his 10th day of his fast. All of a sudden, that tent had started to shake, back and forth, back and forth. All of a sudden, you could hear singing in the sky. And that dad looked up. All of a sudden, there were stars coming down. And they started to go through the top of that lodge. And they spoke to the dad. And they said, "The medicine that you're looking for is in the rocks." They said, "All you have to do is go to this one place, stick your hand in that crack, and that medicine will be there. We put it there for you. It's on your way home." That dad was so happy, but at the same time, that tent, it was just shaking back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. All those stars that were in there were speaking with one voice. And finally, those stars, they start to twirl up like this, and they start to go back. When that man looked up, he noticed the Big Dipper was gone. That Fissure's grandfather was the Big Dipper. Then all of a sudden, those stars went back into place. The dad quickly went home, and on his way home, he reached into that crack and found that sacred medicine and was able to bring it back to his daughter. Gave it to his daughter, and she got well again. And after that, he was so happy and so blessed that he decided to help people. And he started to build that lodge for other people that were sick. And that's the origin story of how we got the shaking tent. And that's how it came to be. And that was told to me many years ago. The old people always told us those stories because they wanted us to know where we get our help from. Because they said maybe in your lifetime, things will be hard and you'll need to ask them too. And those are some of the things that I heard when I was growing up. And, I always think about the time that we're in now. And, you see people coming together. You see people, believing and making their offerings and really reaching out to people and trying to do what they can to help. And that's what the spirits, they always want us to be like that. They always want us to be that way. And so I remember, I was so fascinated by stars. Like I wanted to know what every star meant. And so I was constantly bugging everybody all the time. What's that star? What's this star? What's the name for that one? And of course, I only wanted the native names, Well, they'd say, oh, that's Wabus. Or they'd say, oh, that's this or that's that. And the sky became, full of life. The sky wasn't just a sky anymore, but it was filled with spirit. And many of our people were taken up there. After all, we're star people too. That's where we come from. They say that we come from a place called Shub. Somewhere is that way. And that when we come to this earth, we go through 4 powers. We learn about those 4 powers. The first power that we go through is, of course, the power of fire. And as we go through the stars, we go through another power to get here. That's the power of wind. As we keep making our journey to this earth, we go through the power of water. And water is very sacred. That's when we're in our mom's belly. And the 4th power that we go through is the power of the sacred hoop. And as we enter this sacred lodge here on earth, we take our first breath and we scream to the world. We sound our voice to the world and we cast medicine over everything. That first cry, that first breath that we give out is filled with medicine that comes from the stars. And as we live our life here in the sacred lodge, we know that it's filled with this whole world is filled with star medicine. It's filled with it. It's everywhere. And as we live our life in this sacred lodge, we know that we're just visitors here and that there's many spirits that live here. This is their home, like the Mimigwesiwak, the Pahisak. the Bagujininiwak, the Binabe Kwayak, the Bagujininiwak, which is like a little person, the Chiganabigok, the serpents, the sacred birds, the Nimki Beneshiwak, the thunderbirds. You know, the spirits that live in the forest. I don't want to say their name right now, but this land is filled with spirits. And so, of course, as us as Anishinaabe people, we always lived in our lodges. And our lodges were always connected celestially to the stars. That's why you see a lodge on the bottom and you see a lodge on the top. If you look at a teepee or a wigwam, you'll see how the sticks go up. And that's just to remind us that, you know, the spirit world, we're connected through that sacred smoke hole, Bomgiizhik. That represents that hole in the sky. And through that fire is the doorway that connects these two worlds together. And that the poles themselves, during certain ceremonies, are pointed at a certain pitch and a direction that connectly hit those stars. Now I remember, you know, trying to understand those lodges, those star lodges. And what they used to do was they used to say, look at a star at nighttime at a certain time of year. And then look at the tree right below it, the silhouette of the tree, and use your hand to gauge how many hand widths it is till you get to the star. Then during the day, when you're building your lodge, you use your hand and you know that if it's 5 hand widths above that tree, you know that's where you got to point that stick. And so our people built our lodges in accordance to the stars. And it was a reminder that as guests here on earth, when the sun comes up in the morning and our lodges fill with light, that we start working and we start following that path with the sun. And as the sun goes down, we go down. We go to bed. That's not our time after dark. And that's when all the spirits start to roam to earth at nighttime. Even in the sky, they start coming down. They start roaming to earth. That's why you see lights all over in the forest at nighttime. That's their time. Our time is the daytime. And so I think about that. There's a reason why, you know, our lodges never evolved, you know, like architecturally since creation. Because they were good enough. They were more than good enough because they were connected to the stars. And they say that when we graduate to the next world, you know, we start going through the stars again. And we're met by different spirits. Niganane will lead us to an old lady where there's a crutch in the path. And as we start going down that path, we start making our way back to Shbiming and the stars. And all those spirits, those star beings up there will help us get home. And, you know, I think about that. You know, this life that we have, it's right now. It's a gift. But our real home is in the stars. And that's where we're going to go. That's what the old people used to say. And so I used to see them draw these maps, these star maps of where these different star beings lived. And I have some of those maps with me. I've kept them. I can't show them on Facebook, unfortunately. But I have these old celestial star maps and some songs that go with them, that go with those things. But those are the songs that we sing in our ceremonies. And so I think about, those types of things that, as human beings, we have such a beautiful opportunity right now to reach out, to put our arms into the sky, and to receive that beautiful medicine that hangs above our heads. That's what this old elder in Birch Island told me, Violet McGregor. She says, don't spend your life with your head hanging down. Spend your life looking up, looking at the beautiful magic in the sky. She goes, because that magic, that's also the magic here. The sky world is a reflection of here on earth. And that when we sing here, when we feast here, when we dance and sing our songs, they're also feasting and dancing up there. That we're all connected. And that those are our relatives. And I think about that. I think about those things. And as time goes on, as the world continues to just spin, I wonder about, is the time now? When you look at the old Masanabiakanan, the pictographs on the rocks, you're going to see different types of figures on there. You're going to see one very special figure with arms raised in the air. You'll see this humanoid figure with both arms kind of like raised in the air. And of course, that's them making petitions to the sky and receiving that help. So I've studied Ojibwe pictography and writing systems for many years. And I don't know a lot, but what I do know is that particular symbol represents that people were making petitions at those sacred sites to the sky and asking the sky to help us, and that they received that help. And so I don't think that it's like right now is the time to do that. We shouldn't wait. We should always make time to make our offerings and to reach up to the sky. Just like in a giveaway. You're at a powwow and you're like, you call your name up or something, or you're at a Sundance and all of a sudden you get your gift, and at the very end you're like, la, 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 and you like raise your gift to the sky. That means something. There's a reason why we do that. Because we're giving thanks to the great mystery, to our relatives that live in the sky, for the gifts, for the presents that we get here on earth. And I think that one of the biggest things that we can do is honor each other. Because all of the stories of the boat that I know about the stars have to do with them coming to help us at a time when we lost our way, when we stopped honoring each other, when we stopped believing in each other and we stopped believing in the sacred path. That's when they've always come. And look at society now. Like, there is no doubt that we're in a sacred story right now, Atsukan. And that this story will be told 1,000 years from now. And our people will be sitting around a fire telling this story of when the two-legged tried to destroy everything. And we're going to be the characters in this story. We are the chosen ones. And it's up to us now to be the believers, to be the faith keepers, and to raise our arms into the sky and ask for that good help, that good medicine to come down and have pity on us, because we don't know nothing. We lost our way again. And it's okay to ask for help. And it's okay to say that, you know what? We've really lost our way. All the gifts that we were given, the canoe, the wigwam, all of the sacred gifts, those weeds, the grass, that our moccasins, we don't use them anymore because we got lost. And that's what those old scrolls talk about. Those old sacred birch bark scrolls, they talk about that. There's that one Pshitwa Mazanin, they used to call it. It was a sacred picture written on birch bark that talked about how we lose our way. But every time we lose our way, we always ask for help. It's going to come. We still have good people here in ceremony, praying, suffering. We still have people that are good-hearted people laying their tobacco down, that are giving, that are kind. It's not there's hope that we're not going to just all die. I don't believe that. Because as long as that there's people here that are living in that sacred way, then we have a chance. So keep raising your pipes. Keep singing your songs. Keep believing. Keep believing in your own people. Because they're star people too. Just think of it that way. Next time you decide to go fight at the van office, just know that that person you're going to fight is a star person. Before you start fighting whoever, know that those are star people. As Indigenous people, we always believe that that's where we come from. And so kindness and generosity, that's what those stars represent. And, I'll leave you with this one story. And the story is about how we don't get lost. In one of those maps, one of those old celestial maps that the elder showed me and gave to me, talked about the North Star, Guaitanang. And he said, if you're in the forest and if you're lost and it's cloudy and you don't know anything and you're confused, but you need to get home, go start looking on the ground. Start digging around the ground. Look for a stone, a white little stone, and pray with that stone. Ask the star people to come live in that stone, just for a little bit. Then grab that stone and put it in your moccasin. And automatically, you'll start walking north. You'll know which way to go. Just start walking and you'll go north. At that point on, you'll know which direction you're in. Because you'll always know which way where the river is, or the lake. And that's what my grandfather told me. And he said, one time he had one of those stones. And he treasured that stone because he thought it was magic. And he gave it to his wife, my grandmother. And my grandmother, she took that stone and she said, the stone is very powerful. It should go back to the earth. And it should go back there and we'll give thanks for it. And so my grandfather, they went behind the house and they put that stone back there with food. And that nighttime, he looked outside and that stone was just glowing. That's what he told me. And so, let's keep listening to the grandmas and the grandpas. Let's keep supporting each other. Let's keep believing. And let's start making our offerings and our petitions now. Because with prayer and with what we're asking for, nothing is impossible. Everything is possible. Because the medicine we seek is in the offerings we give. Let's start asking our Jiskunini, our shaking tent people to help us. Let's keep all of those ceremonies going. because that's how we're going to survive. All of those ceremonies are connected to the stars. They're all given to us by the star people, by the spirits that live up there. And so, that's where we're going to find the truth, is on the land, in our ceremonies, and in our language. So with that, I want to thank you for listening. And I, hope that you're all safe and healthy. Keep up your cultural practices to keep yourself safe. And thanks for tuning in. And it's always an honor to be able to sit here and blab with you. And I wish all of you nothing but the best. And again, it's time to start making those offerings. So thank you very much, and have a good night. Have a good rest. And we'll talk to you soon. Bama piku abmin minwa naho. See you.